Ladies and gentlemen, winners are made in silence. That one sentence carries a truth few are willing to accept, because most people believe that success comes from talent, luck, or the right connections, but the reality is far different. Real winners are shaped when the world isn't watching, when the spotlight is off, the crowd is gone, and the only sound is the quiet battle between self-doubt and discipline. In those hidden hours, champions are born, not because they had to prove something to the world, but because they made a promise to themselves, a promise to show up, a promise to endure, a promise to never quit. There's a reason why greatness is rare, because most people only act when it's convenient, when the circumstances are right, when motivation strikes. But winners don't depend on that. They understand that if you only work when you feel like it, you'll never get far. They train in the cold. They wake up when it hurts. They stay focused when distractions are screaming. And they do it without applause, without validation, without anyone even knowing what they're going through. The silence is their forge. It's where they get sharper, harder, and tougher. It's where they fall down over and over and get back up every single time. No cheering crowd, no rewards, just raw effort, brutal honesty, and an unshakable vision of who they're becoming. Someone who doesn't need recognition to keep going, someone who doesn't need recognition to keep going, someone who knows the real victory isn't in the trophy, it's in the transformation. When everyone else goes home, they stay. When others say, that's enough, they say, one more. And they don't talk about it. They don't announce every step on social media or wait for likes to validate their grind. They understand that the loudest path is usually the weakest one, that true strength doesn't need attention, it speaks for itself. So they choose the silent road, the road where it's just them, the goal, and the discipline to bridge the gap in between, in silence. They develop not just skills, but character, not just muscle, but mental armor. They learn how to keep promises to themselves, how to show up even when the results are slow, how to keep working even when progress feels invisible. And that's where the real growth happens, not in the highlight reels, but in the quiet, gritty moments that no one sees. Those moments are sacred because in them, winners are not just building careers, they're building mindsets that can survive anything. This mindset also brings clarity because when you work in silence, you get to hear your own voice more clearly. You understand your why. You reconnect with your purpose. You strip away distractions and ego. You stop comparing because the only competition that matters is who you were yesterday. And each day in silence, each rep, each decision to push forward when it's easier to stop, that's where the gap is closed. That's where the edge is sharpened. That's where winning is wired into the soul. It's not glamorous, it's not loud, it's not flashy, but it's real. And when the day comes that the world finally sees the results, the achievement, the success, the impact, people will say it happened suddenly. But it didn't. It happened slowly, painfully, and quietly over years of showing up, failing, learning, and rising in silence. They didn't see the grind. They didn't see the nights when sleep was sacrificed, or the mornings when every part of the body screamed but the work still got done. They didn't see the loneliness of chasing a dream so big it scares you. But that's fine, because winners don't need to be seen. They just need to become. The truth is, most people don't want it bad enough. They want the outcome, not the process. They want the reward, not the sacrifice. But winners, they fall in love with the silence because they know that's where they grow. That's where they become unstoppable. Talent is not the core of success. Relentless effort and resilience are. This truth often gets buried beneath the glamour of overnight success stories and the highlight reels we see every day. People love to glorify natural ability. They love to talk about someone's gift as if greatness was handed to them at birth. But talent alone is not enough. In fact, it means very little without the will to push beyond it. The world is full of talented people who never reached their potential, not because they weren't gifted, but because they weren't willing to do what it takes. Relentless effort is what separates the ordinary from the exceptional. It's the decision to keep going when you're tired, when you're frustrated, and when the results don't show up as fast as you want them to. It's staying committed, even when the journey feels thankless and lonely. Most people stop when it gets hard, but the ones who keep showing up day after day, hour after hour, they're the ones who win. Not because they were born better, but because they refused to quit. Their hunger was stronger than their excuses. Their will was more powerful than their obstacles. Effort doesn't depend on conditions. It's not based on mood or motivation. It's a choice, a decision, a daily commitment to become better than you were yesterday. You don't need talent to show up early. You don't need talent to stay late. You don't need talent to give 100% even when no one's watching. You just need heart. You need a purpose so strong that even failure can't stop it. Resilience is the partner of effort, because even with all the work in the world, life will still throw punches. You'll fall, you'll fail, you'll be told you're not good enough. That's where resilience steps in. Not just the ability to get back up, but to come back stronger is what turns scars into strength. Resilience isn't about pretending to be fearless. It's about facing fear and walking through it. It's about holding your ground when everything inside you wants to give up. The path to greatness is littered with setbacks. Everyone gets knocked down, but not everyone gets up. Those who do, those who rise again and again, no matter how many times they fall, they're the ones who shape history. Because resilience is a muscle, and every hardship you overcome makes you stronger. Every loss you survive makes you wiser. It's not about how many wins you collect. It's about how many times you refuse to stay down. Talent might open the door, but effort and resilience keep you in the room. You can have all the potential in the world, but without the drive to use it, it stays wasted. The people at the top, they didn't just arrive there by chance, they earned it. They bled for it. They suffered, sacrificed, and endured. They were told no 100 times and kept going. They were overlooked, doubted, and dismissed. But they didn't stop because they weren't in it for recognition. They were in it for growth, for mastery, for something greater than comfort. Effort and resilience are the great equalizers. They don't care where you come from, what your background is, or how much talent you have. Anyone can work hard. Anyone can be relentless. Anyone can decide to keep going. The difference lies in who's willing to pay the price, who's willing to struggle without guarantees, to fight battles no one sees, and to believe in themselves when no one else does. That's the mindset that creates champions. That's the mindset that changes everything. Winners don't wait for motivation. They act and create their own drive. This truth is uncomfortable for many because it forces a person to confront the lie they've been telling themselves. Well, start when I feel ready. But readiness is a myth. And motivation is fleeting. It comes and goes like the weather. Unreliable, unpredictable, and completely outside of your control. The difference between those who succeed and those who stay stuck is simple. Winners don't wait for the right mood, the right moment, or the perfect mindset. They show up no matter what. They move even when every part of them wants to stay still. The myth of motivation has created generations of people waiting to feel inspired before taking action. But inspiration is not a requirement for progress. The top performers in the world, whether in sports, business, art, or life, know that action breeds motivation, not the other way around. The more you act, the more momentum you build. The more consistent your effort, the more your mind adapts. What feels hard today becomes your new standard tomorrow. Winners understand that discipline is the foundation and motivation is just an occasional visitor. The moment you stop relying on motivation is the moment your life begins to shift. When you start showing up on the days you don't feel like it, you start to separate yourself, that's when you begin to develop something most people never taste, self-respect. Because every time you keep a promise to yourself, especially when it's hard, you build trust with the one person you can never escape, you. And when that inner trust grows, you become unstoppable. You no longer need outside energy to push you forward because you've built your own engine. You've designed a mindset that runs regardless of emotion. Winners are not magical beings. They feel fatigue, stress, boredom, and doubt just like anyone else. The difference is they've trained themselves to act anyway, to move even when it's dark, to push forward without needing to feel good. They have rituals, they have systems, they understand that showing up is not negotiable. It's who they are. They don't debate with themselves. They don't give power to excuses. When it's time to work, they work. Not because they always want to, but because they've trained themselves to do, not wait. If you're always waiting for motivation, your life will always be delayed. The winners know this. They've seen how quickly opportunity can slip through your fingers if you wait too long. That's why they take the first step before they're ready. They understand that courage is not the absence of fear, but the decision to move forward in spite of it. They know that motivation might show up later, but only if you start moving now. That's how momentum is born, through disciplined action, repeated daily. And what makes this mindset so powerful is that it removes dependency on things you can't control. You can't control how you feel every day. You can't control how the world treats you, but you can control how you respond. You can control whether or not you take the next step. And once you learn that, once you stop waiting and start acting, everything changes. Your mind becomes sharper, your body becomes stronger, your goals start to feel closer, not because the path got easier, but because you got tougher. Creating your own drive means building habits that support your goals even when your emotions don't. It means designing your environment to make success automatic. It means knowing your why so clearly that quitting stops being an option. Winners are self-starters. They don't need a pep talk to begin. They don't need permission in their hearts and discipline in their hands. They treat their time like currency, spending it only on actions that bring them closer to their vision. The truth is, every second you wait for motivation is a second lost. Winners don't waste time hoping for energy. They generate it. They wake up, they move, they do the hard things first. Even on the days when everything inside them says, take it easy, they rise because they've made a choice to act regardless of feelings. And that choice, made consistently, becomes a lifestyle, a way of living that doesn't need to be loud or flashy, but is powerful beyond measure. Pain and pressure are used as fuel, not excuses. This is one of the hardest truths for most people to accept, yet it is one of the defining characteristics of every true winner. Life will test you. It will knock you down, break your plans, crush your expectations, and throw obstacles in your path. Pain is inevitable. Pressure is unavoidable. But what separates winners from everyone else is what they do with it. Most people run from pain. They hide from pressure. They use it as a reason to quit, to slow down, or to never begin in the first place. But winners, they take that same pain, that same pressure, and turn it into raw energy. They don't ask, why is this happening to me? They ask, how can I grow from this? That shift in mindset is everything, because pain in its purest form is a teacher. It reveals your weaknesses. It shows you where you still need to grow. And pressure, that's the weight that builds your mental muscle. Just like in the gym, resistance creates strength. Without resistance, there is no growth. Without pressure, there is no progress. The winner doesn't curse the pain. They respect it. They lean into it. They allow it to shape them, sharpen them, strengthen them. When life gets hard, most people retreat. They step back. They complain. They wait for the storm to pass. But the winner walks into the storm, not because they enjoy the pain, but because they know what's waiting on the other side of it: evolution. They don't see pressure as a threat. They see it as preparation. Every difficult moment is a chance to become more, to learn, to toughen up, to level up. And because of that, they don't just survive pain. They use it. Winners understand something very few people do. Pain is part of the price. Pressure is part of the path. You cannot reach greatness without being tested. And those tests will come disguised as failure, loss, betrayal, fatigue, heartbreak, rejection. These are not signs to stop. These are signs to dig deeper, to push harder, to build the resilience most will never have. Pain exposes who you are at your core. Pressure reveals whether you're committed or just interested. And the ones who keep going under that weight, those are the ones who rise. They don't numb the pain. They don't distract themselves or run from it. They feel it fully. They study it. They ask themselves what it's trying to teach. And then they do the hardest thing of all. They use it. They use the betrayal to fuel their loyalty to their own mission. They use the loss to sharpen their focus. They use the exhaustion to train their discipline. They turn every scar into a symbol of strength. Every bruise becomes proof that they kept fighting. And in that process, they become unshakable. There is no champion who hasn't walked through pain, no legend who hasn't carried the weight of pressure. What makes them different is not that they avoided suffering, it's that they refused to let it break them. They took control of it. They turned their darkest moments into the foundation of their legacy. They didn't cry about the pressure, they adapted to it. They didn't let pain stop them, they let it guide them. Pain and pressure also reveal priorities. When you're under pressure, you find out what really matters. You stop wasting time, you stop caring about opinions that don't matter, you find focus. And when you're in pain, you discover what you're willing to endure for your dreams. Most people fold, winners rise. Not because they don't feel pain, but because they know pain has a purpose. And once you understand that, once you stop fearing it and start using it, you become unstoppable. This mindset turns every challenge into a stepping stone. Winners don't need ideal circumstances. They don't wait for comfort. They thrive in discomfort. They perform under pressure. They rise through pain because they've trained their minds to do so. They've chosen to transform the very things that stop others into the very things that launch them forward. It's not about avoiding the hard moments. It's about building the mindset that uses them. That's the edge no one can take away. Failure is a tool, not a defeat. It becomes a lesson and stepping stone. This is a truth every winner understands at the core of their being. Most people are terrified of failure. They avoid it, fear it, and run from anything that carries the risk of it. But the most successful people in any field don't fear failure. They embrace it because they know that failure isn't the opposite of success. It's part of the journey. It's the refining fire that forges growth. It's the mirror that reflects what needs to improve. And without it, true progress is impossible. Winners treat every failure as data. They analyze it, break it down, and extract the wisdom buried inside. They don't ask, why did I lose with self-pity? They ask, what can I learn from this that I couldn't have learned by winning? That shift in mindset is what changes everything. Failure becomes a tool, not a reason to quit, but a reason to get sharper, smarter, and stronger. The people who fear failure are the ones who stay stuck. The people who use failure are the ones who rise beyond it. Each failure carries a lesson you cannot get from books or theory. Real learning happens through doing, through trying, through pushing your limits and falling short. When a winner fails, they don't feel ashamed. They don't label themselves as worthless. They know it's just one chapter in a much bigger story. The greatest athletes, inventors, entrepreneurs, artists, they all have a long list of failures behind them. In fact, that list is usually longer than their list of wins, but every failure built them. Every setback shaped their mindset. Every disappointment gave them the depth and understanding they needed to keep rising. What makes failure so powerful is that it tests your resolve. It asks you, how bad do you really want this? Are you only here for the victory, or are you here for the growth? When things go wrong, when your plan falls apart, when the opportunity slips away, when your best effort still isn't enough, that's when you find out who you really are. Winners take that moment and use it. They don't hide from it. They sit with it, feel the sting, and then turn it into fuel. This mindset doesn't come naturally. It's trained, conditioned, developed over time through trial, error, and resilience. It takes humility to admit you failed, but it takes strength to turn that failure into momentum. Most people give up at the first sign of failure because they've attached their identity to success. Winners separate their identity from their results. They know that failing at something doesn't mean they are a failure. It simply means the strategy needs to change, the effort needs to rise, or the timing wasn't right, but they don't stop, they refine, they adjust, they try again. The fear of failure kills more dreams than failure ever will. People don't try because they're afraid to look foolish, afraid to lose, afraid to not measure up. But winners aren't here to impress, they're here to grow. They're not afraid of starting over. They're not afraid of falling in front of others. Because their vision is bigger than their ego, they would rather fail repeatedly in pursuit of something meaningful than succeed at staying comfortable. They know that every fall teaches balance, every mistake teaches wisdom, and every breakdown is a setup for a breakthrough. Failure also builds mental toughness. It teaches you how to keep going when things don't go your way. It trains your patience, your grit, your character. When you've failed enough times, you stop being afraid of it. You stop letting it control you. And that's when you become dangerous, because nothing can shake you. You've already seen the worst and come back stronger. You've already lost and found a way to win again. You carry the scars and with them the strength to rise. Winners don't let failure define them. They let it refine them. They understand that each failure is a forge, shaping them into the person they need to become to reach the next level. And that mindset, that unbreakable view of failure as a stepping stone rather than a stumbling block, is what separates those who dream from those who do. The ones who win didn't avoid failure. They walked straight through it and came out stronger on the other side. Discipline outweighs comfort, and daily habits shape greatness. This is the truth that underpins the mindset of a winner. Success is not built in a single moment of brilliance or a flash of inspiration. It is built slowly, brick by brick, through consistent, disciplined action. Most people crave comfort. They chase what feels good in the moment, what's easy, what's enjoyable. But winners think long term. They're not focused on what feels good now. They're focused on what gets them where they want to be. That's why they prioritize discipline over comfort every single day. Discipline means doing what needs to be done, even when you don't feel like it. It means sticking to the plan when distractions tempt you and excuses try to talk you out of it. Comfort says sleep in. Discipline says get up and grind. Comfort says take a day off. Discipline says stay consistent. Comfort says there's more in you. That mindset doesn't come naturally, it has to be trained. But once it's built, it becomes the foundation for everything else. Discipline is freedom. It might sound like a contradiction, but it's true. When you live with discipline, you control your time, your energy, and your direction. You're not swayed by emotion or circumstance. You don't need motivation to get moving because you've created a system that moves regardless. You wake up and follow your routine. You show up and execute your habits. You've removed the guesswork from success. And that's what allows winners to perform at a high level day after day, not luck, not talent, but discipline backed by powerful habits. Daily habits are the small decisions that add up to massive change. Most people underestimate their importance. They think greatness is about huge actions or overnight transformations, but winners know that what you do every day defines who you become. Your habits shape your identity. Every time you choose to push through a workout, read a page, wake up early, or avoid a distraction, you're casting a vote for the person you're becoming. You're building discipline in real time. Winners don't rely on willpower. They design their lives to support discipline. They structure their environment to minimize temptation. They create routines that keep them grounded. They track their habits, measure their progress, and refine their systems. It's not random. It's not reactive. It's intentional. Because they know success is not about doing the right thing once. It's about doing it over and over until it becomes who you are. It's not about intensity. It's about consistency. Comfort, on the other hand, is the silent killer of dreams. It convinces you that you're fine where you are, that growth can wait, that hard things aren't worth the effort. Comfort whispers in your ear that you've earned a break, that no one else is doing it either, that one missed day won't hurt. And that's how it begins. One skipped workout, one late start, one day of procrastination. Winners see that trap coming from miles away. They don't fall for it, because they know that each time you give into comfort, you reinforce a mindset of weakness. But each time you lean into discipline, you reinforce strength. It's not easy. Discipline never is. It demands sacrifice. It requires saying no to things that bring short-term pleasure. It means doing the hard thing again and again, often with no immediate reward. But winners understand that the pain of discipline is always less than the pain of regret. They'd rather endure temporary discomfort than live a life of what if. That's what separates them. They don't make decisions based on emotion. They make decisions based on vision. Winners build habits that support that vision, morning routines that prime their focus, work rituals that boost their output, evening rituals that protect their recovery. They understand that greatness doesn't come from occasional big efforts. It comes from relentless commitment to the basics. Over time, those small choices compound. Those daily disciplines turn into undeniable results, and eventually the world starts calling them talented or gifted, not realizing that what they're seeing is just the byproduct of years of disciplined habits. When others are sleeping, they're building. When others are distracted, they're focused. When others are chasing comfort, they're embracing discipline, because they know that success is earned, not wished for, and discipline is the price. Actions speak louder than words, and results are what define true winners. In a world full of noise, talk is cheap. Everyone wants to be successful. Everyone says they want to win. They post quotes, share plans, talk big dreams, and make promises. But very few back those words with consistent, disciplined action. Winners don't waste time making noise. They let their results do the talking. They understand that words without action are meaningless. Intentions are worthless without execution. Vision is nothing without effort. The real difference is not in what people say, it's in what they do. Winners live by this principle. They don't brag about their goals, they build them. They don't try to impress others with ideas, they work quietly to turn those ideas into reality. While others are busy explaining what they'll do, winners are already doing it. While others debate, plan, or seek approval, winners act, because they know no amount of talk can substitute for action. They've learned that energy wasted on impressing others could be better spent on improving themselves. It's easy to talk about discipline, success, and dreams when things are easy, but winners are defined by how they act when no one's watching, when the odds are against them, and when the comfort of excuses is just a decision away. They don't just talk about early mornings, they live them. They don't just talk about sacrifice, they make it every single day. Their lives are built on follow-through, not flair. Consistency, not convenience. They know that the world doesn't reward potential, it rewards performance. In a culture where appearance is often mistaken for achievement, true winners know that image means nothing without substance. They don't care about showing off the process, they care about mastering it. They don't seek applause, they seek improvement. Their grind isn't for display, it's for results. And those results speak louder than any speech, caption, or slogan ever could. Results reveal the truth. You can't fake them. You can't pretend to have them. You either put in the work or you didn't. That's why winners stay grounded. They don't waste time defending themselves to doubters. They don't argue with critics. They don't need to. Their results are their proof. Their performance is their answer. The scoreboard, the transformation, the success, that's all the validation they need, because while others seek recognition, winners focus on execution. They know that doing the work always wins over talking about it. They trust the process and they let their growth do the shouting. This mindset also keeps them focused. When you shift your attention from what you say to what you actually do, your priorities change. You stop wasting time trying to look successful and you start doing what it takes to become successful. You stop talking about what you're going to do and you start measuring what you are doing. Winners keep track. They measure effort, progress, and discipline, not because they need external validation, but because they hold themselves accountable. They know where they're falling short and where they need to rise. When you start thinking like a winner, you realize the power of showing up consistently. You don't need to announce every move. You don't need to convince others that you're grinding. Just grind. Let the work talk. Let the transformation show. Let the success echo. That's how real impact is made. Not through empty words, but through solid, undeniable results. This doesn't mean winners are silent or emotionless. It means their focus is different. Their energy is spent building, not bragging. They understand that success is something you live, not something you just say. So they keep pushing, keep improving, and keep growing until the results become so clear that even the loudest voices can't deny them. Every rep, every early morning, every late night, every sacrifice, it all adds up. And while others are still talking about what they'll start someday, Winners are already miles ahead, with actions that speak volumes and results that leave no doubt. Winners live in the now, taking action without waiting for perfect timing. This simple truth separates the dreamers from the doers, the hopeful from the relentless. Too many people waste their lives waiting for the right opportunity, the perfect conditions, more experience, less fear. They keep planning, thinking, hesitating, and convincing themselves that the right time is someday. But winners understand that someday is a trap. It's an excuse disguised as patience. It's a comfort zone wrapped in illusion. The truth is, there is no perfect moment. There is only now. Now is where decisions are made. Now is where progress begins. The present moment is all we ever truly own, and winners treat it as the most valuable asset in the world. They don't wait for inspiration, they don't wait for permission, and they don't wait to feel ready. They move. They take the first step, however small, however uncertain, because they understand that clarity comes from action, not the other way around. The path reveals itself as you walk it, not while you stand at the start overthinking it. People often think they need to have it all figured out before they start. But winners start before they're ready. They take imperfect action. They're willing to look messy, to make mistakes, to grow in public. They understand that waiting for everything to be just right is just another way of saying they're scared. But fear doesn't stop them. It fuels them. It reminds them that what they're chasing matters. And rather than using fear as a reason to stall, they use it as a reason to act now. Time is not a guarantee. No one knows how many tomorrows they have. Winners don't gamble on time. They respect it. They understand that the longer you wait, the further your dreams drift. The more you hesitate, the more opportunities you miss. And the more comfortable you get with waiting, the more that waiting becomes your identity. That's why they move now, not because they're fearless, but because they're focused. Not because the timing is perfect, but because their commitment is real. Taking action in the present also builds momentum. Action creates motion, and motion builds confidence. Every small step forward strengthens your mindset, your skills, and your belief in yourself. Winners don't underestimate the power of starting small. They know that greatness isn't built in one leap. It's built in consistent daily movement, one task, one rep, one bold decision, taken now, not later. That's how goals are conquered. Waiting feels safe, but it's an illusion. You may feel like you're avoiding failure by waiting, but what you're really doing is delaying growth. Every minute you spend getting ready is a minute you could have spent gaining experience. Winners know that the real risk isn't trying and failing, it's never trying at all. That's the kind of regret that burns the longest. So they choose to act, not because they're always confident, but because they trust the process of learning through doing. Living in the now also teaches presence. When you focus on the present moment, you strip away anxiety about the future and guilt from the past. You become fully engaged in what you're doing right now. That level of focus leads to excellence. Winners aren't distracted by what ifs. They're locked into what is, and that focus gives them power, precision, and progress that others never reach because their minds are always elsewhere. Most people get stuck in preparation mode. They read, plan, study, and analyze, but never execute. Winners know that preparation has a limit. At some point, you need to stop learning and start applying. The real world doesn't reward potential, it rewards action. The people who rise aren't the ones who knew the most, they're the ones who moved the fastest, who acted when others were still waiting to feel ready. Winners take initiative. They say yes before the door closes. They take the shot while others are still aiming. They send the message, start the business, make the call, begin the workout without needing everything to be perfect. They know progress is messy. They know perfection is a lie. But momentum is real, and that momentum starts with a choice. Act now or keep waiting. Winners choose now every single time.